Woke up on a motherfucking Tuesday, girl got me drunk cause I'm feeling so loose and I don't know what to do. 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 What's up, Static? What's up, Tyree Randall? How you guys doing today? Hope you're doing swell. I'm just trying to get laid. It's another Sunday. It's another Manic episode. What we're gonna do today is talk about gaming all these hoes away. I ain't about that lazy shit. I'm just trying to chill out today. Happy Manic Sunday. I'm having a fun day. What's up, Dante? I'm feeling the fires of the inferno, but I'm feeling so cold. Feeling freezing. I was just listening news, that's all. There's not a lot of news. I mean, we got the Animal Crossing Direct, but it doesn't really apply as much to me because I'm not like an Animal Crossing aficionado, so I feel like I'm not the one to talk about Animal Crossing to that degree. I mean, the Direct was cool. The game looks fire. Just, it's not my thing, so it's kind of hard to go into it to the same degree. Hey, what's up, Lightning? What's up, Mr. Pog Revolver? Realistically, that's what you need to do. Just change your name to Pog Revolver and get it done with. Because at this point, there should be no more shame. There should be no more shame. Let's see. Oh, you just listen to the news in general. What's up, Sora-san? I'm trying to get the stuff up. There's nothing really of note other than the... But Juice brought up some interesting topics. Why the hell is Seductive Sunday trending? I didn't even know Seductive Sunday was a thing. Oh, 1 second. Mother's calling. Hello? Like $6 and some change. Really? Cool. Yeah, I got you. Okay, listen. When you get back to the house, I'm upstairs streaming, so just leave my sandwich in the microwave, and don't like call me. Yeah. I don't know. You mean his phone's pretty bad, so. Bye. It always happens. I actually expected her to get me one day or not. I'm surprised it was there. Yeah, I'm scrolling through the Seductive Sunday tag. I should not have done this because now I'm distracted and I need like 10 minutes. I actually don't need. I don't need 10 minutes. I need like an hour and a half. I've never seen Seductive Sunday trend. All right, let me get off of this. This is way more raunchy than I thought it was gonna be. As if I don't look at some of this stuff on Twitter to begin with, so I should have known better. Let's move on. Let's move on. Damn, never mind. Shit, I hit it. Oh, thank you for the donation, Zora-san. I appreciate it, man. Oh yeah, my phone just went off. Okay. I get PayPal notifications. So thank you for the donation, Zora-san. You never see that fucking that animation come up because it doesn't happen that often. But cool. Pogs is your catchphrase. That's fine. Mom made me some meatloaf, which is funny. We had meatloaf earlier this week. So, like I said, there's not like a lot of news and stuff. I mean, the Animal Crossing Direct was cool. But for me personally, because I'm not into Animal Crossing, it doesn't do a lot. Like I like the fact that the Direct exists because I like watching Animal Crossing fans' reactions. So I thought the Animal Crossing fan reactions were cool, especially the girls. I feel like a lot of that, and there's a few guys who like Animal Crossing a lot, like Robert and Retro Death, but like a lot of the girl reactions were probably the best things. So I don't have a lot in that sense. Also, let me share. I didn't miss anything. Okay, I thought I missed something. I did not. Okay. But since Juice is here anyway, I wanted to kind of talk about the list he made. So I'm going to go pull that from Twitter real quick, which was the original reason why I was on Twitter. Shit kind of happened. And that didn't happen. What's the next Nintendo game I'm buying? I don't know, man. I don't really have a Nintendo game. Not a Nintendo game. I mean, we don't know. Realistically, there aren't any releases. If we're talking like, if you're talking about the games that we know exist but don't know if they're coming out, yeah, I don't know. Right now, I don't know. The other games I'm interested in are third-party games or games made by third-party developers. No, so I want to get Juice's list he put on Twitter, and I think he put it in the podcast chat, and just have this up. So we're gonna stretch this out. But I'm going to put it below some stuff so it doesn't. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so here we go. So this is Juice's list that he made that is comprehensive. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm going to cross out some stuff. I feel like this is probably a more interesting topic anyway. So, like, the current conversation that's been going on has been some discourse about Nintendo's game output and how it's not up to snuff, or what did the fusion of these of combining like handheld and development studios, what did that really do? Because as you can see from the list, which I don't think is perfect by any means, but it's comprehensive in the sense that Nintendo was putting out more in the 3DS Wii U era in the years from 2012 to 2015 than they've been on the Switch. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything in the sense of the critiques of this, but I also... Well, that's fine. I wasn't going to really focus on the small games. The ones I was really going to focus on is that the first thing I don't really agree with is there's... When you talk about Nintendo's output, I feel like third-party games don't count. I feel like games either made by third-party or from third-party companies don't count. So that means things like Bayonetta doesn't count because Nintendo didn't really develop that game. They may have overseen it because Nintendo's already mentioned, especially on the... I think they mentioned it a few times with like Platinum, and they mentioned it again with like when they were doing Devil's Third and shit. They don't really develop the games. What they end up doing is they end up just overseeing it. They let the third-party developers do what they do. Which is what you're supposed to do with a third party. If you trust a third party developer with your IP, you let them do what they do. You just oversee them for like certain things, like the use of the IP. So I wouldn't count Bayonetta. I wouldn't count. Hyrule Warriors or Fire Emblem Warriors. I wouldn't count Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I wouldn't count Fatal Frame because they own the IP for Fatal Frame, but that's Koei Tecmo who makes those games. The only, they have to be, to me, they have to be Nintendo internal for it to count. The only exception to that is Game Freak because Pokemon is a Nintendo idea. Well, I get it, but published to me is not, I don't view that in the same tier. Because the argument wasn't about whether they published games. Your issue was more so about Nintendo's game output. Like the games they were making and putting out. Because the fusion of their development studios does nothing for publishing. They're still spending the same amount of money. So it's not about exclusivity. It's about the games that they make. Games that would have been directly affected by the fusion. The fusion did nothing for games you're publishing because you're just putting out money to publish them. But when you're talking, when the argument came up about, what was that, 2015, 2016? Well, no, it doesn't change the list, but I'm getting to a point, is what I'm saying. So yeah, Fatal Frame wouldn't count. Pokken Tournament wouldn't count. I don't remember. I think Pushmo was first party, so I'm going to leave that on there. Wonderful 101 wouldn't count. Make sure. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 wouldn't count. Tetris wouldn't count. Daemon X Machina wouldn't count. Astral Chain wouldn't count. So on both sides, they would lose. They would lose games. What about companies try to save a game franchise that, like Marvel's Alliance and Bayonetta? I mean, that's important. But Static, the problem is the conversation is about Nintendo's game output. The whole argument was back in 2015-16. Oh, Snipper Clips? Oh yeah, okay. Snipper Clips wouldn't count. The whole argument was when the studios fused, when the handheld and console studios, the development fused to like this singular design. The argument is, if you ain't making the game, then it shouldn't count on the list. Now, if you want to do the publishing argument, fine, but that's not really the argument that's going on right now. Cause I'm not in the same boat. I'm not as negative about it as I would say T or Juice is about the output of Nintendo Switch games. Because for me, are they listening? Really? Well, if they're listening as a dev for Tetris, fine. I didn't know. I thought that was, who owns Tetris? Is that? Oh, I used to know. I don't know who owns Tetris, but yeah, that's fine. If you're listed as a developer, that's fine. If they develop the games, that's fine. So here's the thing. I understand. I also find it kind of crazy that like the 3DS arguably has more games. Actually has more games than the fucking Wii U does, which I think was probably one of the bigger complaints about the Wii U era. It wasn't that the Wii U didn't have games, it was that the better games were on the 3DS. Like, I think almost every main game, except for a few exceptions, we got better games on the 3DS overall, with a few exceptions. Like I would say Bayonetta 2 is an exception. Mario Kart 8 is debatable, but I would still say it's an exception. DK, 3D World, Pikmin 3. That's getting. I'm kind of getting off topic, so I won't move into that. If you want to do that real quick, that's fine, Juice. If you want to send me an updated list, I'll wait. I'll take this one down for right now, and we'll just talk. So here's my thing. I don't think the quality has changed much. I'll say that right now. I also feel like people are downplaying the whole made for a handheld argument a little bit too much, considering we know that the cost of HD development has been more expensive as other companies have suffered from it, like Capcom and Square. We've had companies that just have suffered in game. I think every developer has dropped in game output for the most part. And people want to downplay the whole, oh well, HD development shouldn't have mattered because they got everyone working on one console. The shit's still expensive and the shit was still rough. What's up, the lazy one? And to me, it'd be a different story if I wasn't getting the same kind of experimental games that we got in the Wii U era. Like, the most experimental games we got, I would say, would be Splatoon, Mario Maker, Captain Toad, Pokken Tournament, and I think those were the most experimental games. Well, yeah, but the way I'm looking at it is development. That's the way I look at it. I know, like Astral Chain, I know they partially own the IP, but I'm looking at development. We've already gotten a bunch of experimental shit from Nintendo. The problem is that the experimental shit from Nintendo for our games just didn't do as well. Like, Sushi Striker is one, Arms is another. You could put 1-2 Switch and Snipper Clips in there, but since they don't own Snipper Clips, they don't. Well, they're not. They don't own the developers. Those are different developers. I don't really have. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. Ring Fit, to me, is a modern variation on Wii Fit, which I think is, ironically enough, I look at Ring Fit as an evolution of the Wii Fit franchise without being in the same. They're technically two different franchises, but you can definitely look at Ring Fit as a successor. I think the main thing about the Wii U and Switch era that's primarily different, and the reason why people don't mind it as much with the Switch as they did with the Wii U, is that the Wii U, all these games had to hit. People need to understand something. In this generation, every single Wii U title had to hit. Do you want me to leave the remake? Yeah, take the remakes out. There's no point in keeping the remakes. Take out the remakes. To me, the Wii U era, almost every game had to hit because that was the only game you were getting. Third party meant something. And I think a lot of people, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't like people didn't recognize that third party meant something anyway. But for Nintendo, unless you were playing every Nintendo game that came out, third party not being on the game on the console at all really hurt the Wii U. The Switch has a lot more buffer room that allows it to kind of have a similar release schedule. A similar release schedule, at least for home console. And I think a lot of people don't give it credit for that. Because that is a reality that needs to be addressed. That, yeah, because Bravely Second doesn't need to be on there either. Bravely Second's Square. Especially because I don't think Octopath Traveler is on. Yeah, Octopath's not even on the Switch side. So I don't know why Bravely Second's on the 3DS, and we know Bravely Second isn't first party. Hell, I don't even think it's second party. It's not even second party. But third party meant a lot. It means a lot. Juice is also talking about like console envy. And for me personally, it always came down to the argument of, and I want the rest of you guys to chime in, like in terms of your opinions on this whole thing. Because a lot of people are jaded with Nintendo specifically because of the whole lack of a direct and how the output of games isn't up to snuff for a lot of people. Even though for me personally, I'm not really aggravated. Nintendo just has Nintendo's third-party exclusive or just third-party content made up for that. So like last year, there was a bunch of type of titles. Yeah. Oh, was that the difference that they published Bravely Second? Well, and that's the other thing I want to get into. The handheld division. If we go into it, the Animal Crossing team is making New Horizon. Paper Mario, that's Intelligent Systems. Intelligent Systems makes those games. Well, we know what Intelligent Systems has been doing. They've been working on Fire Emblem. They've been working on Fire Emblem Three Houses. They just released DLC for it. So that pretty much crosses out all the Paper Mario and Fire Emblem stuff. Alpha Dream is in the middle of a bankruptcy, which is why you haven't seen any Mario and Luigi. I don't know who develops Fantasy Life, so I'm not sure. Dr. Luigi, I'm not sure. Mario and Donkey Kong, I'm pretty sure we got one of those. I might be wrong, but I thought we got a Mario and Donkey Kong. I'm not sure. Some of these developers I don't know. Game Freak, we know what they're doing. Zelda, we know what they're doing. Kirby just finished updates for Star Allies So they're probably in the process of working on a new game. You would assume they literally just finished doing updates for Star Allies. Same thing kind of goes for Mario Tennis Aces. Codename Steam was fucking Intelligent Systems. Grezzo was working on Link's Awakening, which just came out. Well, yeah. There's nothing that's wrong with supervision of these games. But what I'm really worrying about is whether or not you guys care about the fact this list, the way this list is, the fact that they're all. Nintendo hasn't presented me with anything this year with Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Don't do nothing for me. However, I have such a back leg on Switch, it doesn't matter too much, and that's kind of the thing. Like I said, this is why I say third parties matter. Third parties are the kind of defining feature with this console. Like, even if Nintendo wasn't putting out a lot, I got other things to play. Like, I'm still playing Dragon Quest. I'm like 40 hours into Dragon Quest now, I want to say. I want to say 40 hours. I don't know if it's actually 40 hours. But I got like a good chunk of time in there. And Retro's working on Metro Prime 4, so that's where the Donkey Kong. Like, most of these titles have representation on Switch. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them do. That's why a lot of people were concerned about this year, primarily because it's like, well, how many IPs are left that they can really touch on? Because Mario Kart, nah, man, Nintendo owned IPs. Nintendo owned IPs made by second party studios definitely count. Intelligent Systems made Dunk Hunt for Christ's sake. But Intelligent Systems I wouldn't view as a second party studio. I'm saying, like, Intelligent Systems is not. Wait, let me double check before I open my mouth and say anything else. Let me double check. Intelligent Systems, I believe, is owned by Nintendo, though. It's not like, to me, it's not the same thing. Let's see. Yeah, I spelled it wrong. Fuck me. Let's see. And the problem is we got a bunch of rumors going around. See, this is the problem. Like, it's a lot of jadedness coming from. I just want to make sure. Isn't their parent? It's, you know what trips me out? That Intelligent Systems, the front page. Oh, they did Pushmo. I didn't know they did Pushmo. It's crazy. That is fucking crazy. That is fucking crazy. I did not know they did Pushmo. That's crazy. I think Intelligent Systems is only done. Well, no, the point of the list has nothing to do with the publishing. The point I'm making is you're talking about games that would be affected by this merger. What I'm saying is, like, it's not, to me, it's a conversation that I understand your concern and your issues with. But I also don't really think it's that big of a deal because of the main differences of why it was an issue on Wii U and why it's not an issue on Switch. Because Switch has more games. It doesn't have more Nintendo games, but it has, well, actually, debatably, it has more Nintendo games. But for the Wii U, that was it. You have no, like with Wii U, there were no, other than the beginning of the Wii U, you had no room. Like when you look at the Wii U's list of games, that wasn't like the Wii U's list of games excluding third party. That was the Wii U's list of games. Because that was all you fucking had. Oh no, I agree. Intelligent Systems would be a part of that discussion. I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm saying Intelligent Systems does like three or four of Nintendo series. They do Fire Emblem, they do Paper Mario, they do Pushmo. Like they're so embedded that the more shit they have to work on, the harder it gets. Like that's why I say I don't like the fact that you guys discredit the whole. Oh, well, HD development is tougher. Like, people want to discredit that argument, but that's a fair argument to make. Because that legit stops developers from putting out as many games as they used to. In my opinion. That's the reason why I say that. Intelligent Systems has legit been busy with Fire Emblem. They've been working on Fire Emblem, and then they finally put out Fire Emblem, and then they're putting out DLC for Fire Emblem. Because here's my thing, like with Fates and I would say with Fates, Awakening. No, wait, Terminator, I'm not telling you to take Intelligent Systems off the list. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying they count. I've said that like 2 or 3 times at this point. I get it, they count. I'm not saying they don't. All I'm saying is that most of these developers, most of the major titles on that first list is most of the titles on that first list, we know what those developers have been doing. The difference is they were doing like 3 different fucking things at once. And they don't have the same luxury because they're dealing with a higher power console. Primarily, I feel like the merger was more for them to keep up and not to come out with like 16. Because like realistically it's easy. The 3DS was easier to develop for. No. Yeah, I'm keeping Intelligent Systems on the list. Yeah, but they were putting out like, and they were reusing engines like a motherfucker on the 3DS. People want to act like the 3DS had 2 or 3 Kirby games because they reused the engines on them. Actually, they just did that for the Switch too. They reused Star Allies engine for that Kirby Clash game. That's what they do. They're reusing the engines. But reusing an HD engine versus reusing a fucking GameCube engine is not the same goddamn thing. That's why you had Triple Deluxe and fucking Planet Robobot come out within like, what was that, 3 years? Like one came out 1 year, they took a break another year, and then another game came out like a year later. Like that, to me, I feel like that's why I say the importance of HD development is a bitch. That's also why at the end of the 3DS's life cycle, you start getting a bunch of fucking remakes. You start getting a bunch of fucking remakes or ports because it was the same development process. But I feel like people downplay the Switch's library as if like they weren't putting out quality content. Like I know people have issues with Yoshi, but I think Aces is a better game now than it was. Realistically, I think Nintendo's problem currently is that they're trying to use the model that kind of worked at the end of the Wii U life cycle for like every main game they put out. I think that's the current problem they're running into. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but see, the problem is that because realistically, this argument is like really hyperbolic. Like, not hyperbolic. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's really not. It's inconsequential because the fucking the generation for Nintendo isn't over yet. Let me see. Because it's not like there's no possibility we can get certain games, but you also got to remember some of these games have fucked up histories in the first place. Like the fact that DK, like, and I mentioned it I think in the podcast before, Donkey Kong has a fucking identity crisis. You got Donkey Kong and Metroid tied to the same developer, and it's not like that developer makes bad games, but it's like those are 2 high tier ass franchises. And I think now Retro's finally getting more hands in the pot to do different things. But that shit's hard. Like, making 3 different GameCube-sized titles on the 3DS in 2014 and shit was easy. Versus making, like, 3 Donkey Kong Tropical Freezes in 2020. While also working on Metroid in the back and whatever IP they were messing with before that. Like, that shit matters. But I do agree it's a lower output. But realistically, I wasn't expecting, like, some type of boom. I feel like people think that I don't understand the unrealistic expectation that, like, they were all of a sudden going to, like, come out with 50 games a year. Like, when you look at this is 28 fucking titles in the course of 3 years. Which there are 36 months. This is a response to a lot of people saying the 3 years on Switch destroy the 3 year from a Nintendo standpoint. If we're going by that logic, arguably they're right. Off of this base list. Because if we look at which games handle shit, let's see. Well, this is also personal. The problem with that is also personal opinion. Because you might like certain games over others. Because Kirby Star Allies Kirby Star Allies, people would argue is a better game than Rainbow Curse. People, I think it's factual that Super Mario Party is better than Mario Party 10. Mario Maker 2 is arguably better than Mario Maker. The Wii U never had an Animal Crossing game. The Wii U never had a Pokemon game. Luigi's Mansion 3, Luigi Mansion 2 was never on a console. Let's see. I would disagree with Hyrule Warriors, but that's only because Hyrule Warriors had 3 iterations of it. Well, the reason why you could include the Wii U ports is because the Wii U ports technically play better. For most games, they at least play better with a few exceptions. Like Donkey Kong, it's literally the same game except for shorter loading times. They are, but like the argument with the ports would be the fact that they play better on the Switch. They either have shorter loading times or they play better. There's only a few examples of where I think they're worse. What else am I missing? Like I would say Hyrule Warriors arguably is better, but it's only because Hyrule Warriors has 3 versions of itself. Hyrule Warriors has like the original 3DS and then the Switch version, which arguably the Switch version is the best version. I don't know what the situation. The problem is the retro situation is like touch and go. No one knows what's going on. The fucking let's see. The problem with certain companies is that they want to milk gamers with releases on just DLC, and Nintendo doesn't like that. Nintendo doesn't like that, but Nintendo's also doing that whole here's the base game that's kind of lackluster. So you think like, see, then that's the thing. Like the reason why they say it trounces the Wii U, not to say the Wii U didn't have good games, but like realistically, if you're a Nintendo fan and you play the Wii U, you have like it doesn't go both ways. Like if you, I'll put it this way, I could still play, if I play only the Switch, I have no reason to go back to the Wii U. One, because almost every main game I could give a fuck about is on the Switch. Whereas the other way around, if you went back and played the Wii U exclusively, or the Wii U and 3DS exclusively, you would still have a reason to go to the Switch. Yeah, we get a lot of stuff on the eShop. Not saying it's perfect. I mean, obviously, I don't think any of these are perfect. I'm just saying, to be fair, the 3DS is kind of its own different beast. To me, the 3DS... But then again, I can argue the DS was better than the Wii. The DS, I can argue, was better than the Wii. I wouldn't argue it for the Game Boy Advance, though, personally, because the Game Boy Advance suffers in a similar route. It was full of a bunch of fucking ports, and then it got good games later on, but the Game Boy Advance went a similar route of having a bunch of ports on it. It was ridiculous. And that's kind of my main thing. Like, it's like, I could see why you would say the Switch defeats the Wii U's game library if you were going back and forth, because they had games that the Wii U never got. Well, like, and that's the thing. Like, and all this is really coming from is a lack of a direct, which is fucking dumb. Like, that's like, to me, that's not something that should cause all this fucking discourse all of a sudden. But you want to trip out on it over some small shit like, well, they said the Wii U's game library wasn't shit compared to the Switch's. Well, arguably, for one, that's subjective. That is legitimately subjective. Wii U had quality titles. It's just that you had to wait for the next game. Yeah, but the problem with that is that the Wii U. Well, that's also debatable depending on. Well, let me phrase that. If we're talking about quality titles, and we're trying to be objective here, it's hard because it's hard to be fully objective. I would say the ones that you would have to take out on the fucking Wii U side would be Games and Wario. That was overall a disappointing game. Let's see. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse is kind of a weird thing. I think people were more annoyed at what that game wasn't than what it was. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse is probably the most debatable one on there. Pokken Tournament It's a fun game. It's hard. I would take out that, and I would take out Mario Tennis. I think those are the two main ones I would take out. On the 3DS side, you got to take out Sticker Star because that game is universally hated. That game is universally hated. People hate Sticker Star. Chibi Robo Whiplash needs to be taken out. Yoshi's New Island needs to be taken out. Mario and Donkey Kong in general, that series hasn't been good for years. That's the people would disagree with you though, Juice. That's my issue with Rainbow Curse. People would disagree with you. I don't feel like I'm the one that's able to judge that. I feel like Kirby, the Kirby one is kind of hard to describe. Even people said like, now we keep the other two. I think those are the main ones you would take out. Whereas the main ones you would take out for Switch would be maybe Yoshi's Crafted World. I don't think Sushi Strikers was a bad game. I don't think Mario Party was a bad game. They were lacking in content, but they weren't bad games. And maybe Fire Emblem Warriors because it's lesser to Hyrule Warriors. Like most of the Switch's titles would stay. Because people like Sword and Shield. I mean, Sword and Shield has its controversy, but people still like Sword and Shield. People like Mario Maker 2, Fire Emblem. Like most of the games have been hits. Well, I mean, at this point, it might not. It's just fun to have the conversation. Well, that's what I said, and that's the core of the issue. I think the Wii U era suffered primarily because of the gaps in games. Like the problem, the reason why people prefer the Switch era over the Wii U era is partially due to the fact that every one of these games, most of these games, there were like huge gaps in certain chunks of games. Like you would get a chunk of games, and then you would get this giant fucking gap, and there would be nothing. And I'm not talking about like nothing first party. I'm talking about nothing in general. Let's see. Yeah, but to me, well, I mean, you can argue the quantity. Well, the argument is quantity. That's pretty straightforward. That two consoles had a better output than one. But they also had less reason. But see, the difference is you were devoting time. But if we're going off of just the straight, there's more games on the Switch than there is on the Wii U and 3DS. I feel like that's not fair, but fine. No, there were huge gaps in Nintendo games, but the reason why I say it's more infuriating, it was more of a problem on Wii U, is because Wii U had gaps in games. Like, whereas Switch had gaps in Nintendo games. That's the reason why I say people were more against the Wii U in this situation than they would be the Switch. Like, people will look at this list, and even though the list factually shows that there were more games that came out on the Wii U and 3DS, you had people like you, Juice, who didn't fucking let's see. Actually, someone said it in the comments of the tweet. Actually, Wii U had way less output. The amount compared to Switch. The gap between releases was ridiculously large, way larger than the Switch ever had. Plus, the Wii U was out way longer. Currently, I think that's the problem. That the Switch in 5 years, because like even if you included 2016 for the Switch, which is its last year, you can only add like what, 3 games on there? Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Star Fox, and actually Pokken Tournament would have been on there for that. I know why you put Pokken Tournament on this list, because if you look up Pokken Tournament, it gives you its arcade release date. Remember Pokken Tournament released in arcades in 2015, but the West didn't get it until 2016. Well, I wouldn't say that, because realistically, there's a good chunk of these games that came out in 2018. The problem is certain people weren't happy with those games. Like, Aces came out in 2018. Kirby came out in 2018. Actually, Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu came out in 20. Was it? I'm trying to make sure before I say that. Yeah, I think Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu came out in 2018. I might be wrong on that one. I can check that one real quick. There were other games that came out. People want to act like, oh, 2018 was Smash, depending on the kind of gamer you were. But like realistically, other games did come out. Whereas for like when you said that about other years, is a different story. Let's Go Eevee. I'm pretty sure that was 2018, but I might be wrong on that. Yeah, it was. It was 2018. And fucking 10 million people bought that fucking game. Oh, here we go. Making 2 out of 3 HD games in just 2 or 3 years. Those games being SteamWorld Dig 2, SteamWorld Quest, Tearaway, and Tearaway on Fun. Oh wait, Image Form put out Tearaway? Really? Oh no, you say Image Form and Terra Zero Studio putting out 2 to 3 HD games again. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see the other ones. Aces was handled poorly. Gameplay is great though. That's the issue with Aces. Aces just had a problem. Yeah, but see, that's also a theory. And that also isn't the point. The point isn't, oh, well, they would have gotten those games. And that isn't the point because that doesn't matter. In this argument, that does not matter. That the Wii U would have gotten those games if the Wii U didn't fail. That doesn't matter in that situation. When indie devs can make HD quality games quickly, is there an argument for Nintendo not being able to? Well, mostly because primarily most of those games aren't hard. I would say SteamWorld Dig, SteamWorld Quest, I know are both 2D games. 2D games are inherently easier to make than 3D ones. Which I don't think is an argument. I don't think that would be an argument. Then you have things like Tearaway and Little Nightmares. Tearaway Unfolded. Isn't that the PS4 port of that game? Or is that the original? That's the Vita game. Which was on the fucking Vita, which means it would have been easier to make because it was a lesser quality game. Not lesser quality, what's the word I'm looking for? Lesser fidelity, I'm sorry. And then Little Nightmares is Bandai Namco, but I don't remember what Little Nightmares was. I don't remember what system that originally came out on. Also, I wouldn't say that's like insanely quickly. You're talking about 3 titles. Well, look at what the Wii U did in 5 years compared to what the Switch did in 3 years, BS. It's factual Breath of the Wild wouldn't have been a Switch game if the Wii U didn't fail. Yeah, but that's not relevant. I don't understand how that's relevant in this situation. Because it's like, look what the Wii U did in 5 years. I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding the argument. Little Nightmares, I don't remember the specifics for Little Nightmares. That's why I can't comment on that one. And honestly, it was held for the Switch based on what Miyamoto said. But I don't understand how that's relevant in this conversation. You're arguing Nintendo's output. That's what you're arguing. You're not arguing which consoles on which system. You're arguing the output of the games. And we still had games that year that weren't supposed to be on Switch. I mean, that arguably wasn't supposed to be on Wii U. The ones you mentioned were Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Fire Emblem Warriors, and Xenoblade 2 in year 5. I don't even know where... I don't know where that came from. I don't know where the Xenoblade 2 came from. And also, Fire Emblem Warriors is a Koei Tecmo game, so what the fuck does that one matter for? Yeah, that one was on multiple platforms. I don't remember... But that's the one I don't have a lot of experience with. Also, I wouldn't say those are like insane... It'd be a different story if Nintendo's list was like a third of the Wii U's list, but that's not the case. Not like a third of it. It's not like you still haven't gotten heavy like hits in every major franchise for Nintendo. And that's excluding the ports and the third-party games. Like the fuck. And like I said, and it's because the people were saying, look at the Wii U. Like the argument at this point turns into stop discrediting the Wii U era. And like realistically, I don't think it's that big of a deal at this point. It has surpassed the Wii U after only 3 years, but it only has those. A lot of those games would have been. We mean a lot of those games you named. What is that? 1, 2, 3. You named 5 games. 5 titles. You named 5 titles. One of which isn't really a Nintendo game in the sense of development, so it doesn't really matter. Fire Emblem Warriors doesn't really matter because it wasn't developed. The other 4, fine. Although I only remember arguments about Breath of the Wild and Odyssey. I don't remember hearing arguments about Splatoon 2 or Xenoblade, but that's fine. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Monolith Soft did turn over 2 fucking games turned out 3 games pretty much in 2 years. Like you got Breath of the Wild, which we know Monolith Soft worked on. You got Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then you got I'm missing a game, aren't I? What was the other Monolith Soft game I'm thinking of? Oh, what am I missing? I'm missing a game. I had it in my mind and I fucking blanked. But Nintendo's hand of those years were trash. Well, and that's true. Nintendo did not handle that year well. What am I'm on Monolith Soft. I'm missing a title. Oh, I was thinking of Chronicles X. That's what it was. They helped them Breath of the Wild. They came out with 2, and then they came out with X. And that was all in the course of 2 years. Actually, it was 2015, because that's when Xenoblade came out. That's when X came out. Then you had Breath of the Wild in 2017. You had Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So it wasn't like certain... That's not true. So what, everything... So pretty much you're discrediting everything that came out in 20... They've also been working on the Wii U. It wasn't 9 months. They were working on the Switch at least since 2015. They've been working on the Switch for at least 2 years. So I don't think it was 9 months. I think they had about 2 years of development. Because like we were saying in the podcast before, it was pretty much after 2014 they noticed the sales didn't pick up. It's probably when they started working on the Switch. It was probably after they realized that 2014 did not do what it should have done. 2015 was probably when it started. So it wouldn't have been 9 months. It probably would have been like a year and a half to 2 years. At least that's my opinion. Personally. Well, that's the thing. It's not a big deal, and you're right. It's not that relevant, but it's the whole dumb argument it's pretty much the argument really boils down to no one wants to hear the Wii U get shit talked again. And I get it, but like realistically, it doesn't fucking matter. The Switch is literally a damage control console. After the Wii U's second year being a failure, they already started working on it. But you're saying not that they start working on it, but you're saying in the last 9 months, they already had to be planned for the Wii U. Essentially, you're implying they were originally developed for the Wii U. Which, like I said, I don't think it's that relevant of a conversation. But we're going to move on past this at this point. I feel like at this point we're just kind of going in circles. And like Antrite said, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Do I think it was developed completely with the total? Not inherently, but there's a lot of games that switch consoles. I guess my argument is, to me, it doesn't matter. I guess that's the argument. That's why I'm going to leave it alone. The game, but the thing is, they probably decided to work on the Switch early, so a lot of those games probably were already in consideration. Hell, though, fucking, they had just finished X, like, in 2015. They made 2 in, like, 2 years. Which is insane, considering what kind of game that is. Fucking ridiculous. But that's besides the point. I'm just going to move on from it. Because at this point, it's a Wii U conversation that kind of doesn't fucking matter. It's a Wii U conversation that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. And all of this is really kind of just based in this weird conversation we've been currently having where we need to overly state how the Wii U was so much better than what people gave it credit for, and that the Switch in comparison is a lot worse than what people think it is. That's like the crux of the conversation. And realistically, a lot of this shit will be kind of ignored as soon as the Direct comes out. So I don't know. It's not really worth it. Let me just look at the questions real quick. Animal Crossing Direct was cool. Sora-san, that was his question. The job has been alright, Revolver. I've just been kind of adjusting to new people, new schedules, and new work and how they do things. But new job's been cool, but thank you for asking. I think it's kind of dumb because they don't get the Atlas process. The Atlas thing, I'm curious if that's more of like Atlas of, if it's an America versus Japan situation again. Where Atlas of America what the fuck, Antrite? Well played, Antrite, but damn. But there isn't so much money. That's part of the reason why I didn't actually. If you notice, real quick, one last thing I'll say. And so, if you noticed during the podcast last week, I didn't really say too much about the whole Wii U Switch conversation much, and that's partially because like it's not like a conversation I really care to have. I figured I would humor it now, but still. Is your harem starting to take shape at work? Fuck no. I'm not talking to anyone on that level, so I'll say fuck no. You ask me in a couple months, we'll see what happens. But right now, it's fuck no, period. It started in July. Wait, how? So they were working on 2 while also working on X? Because X hadn't even came out yet. They must have been like in the early development stages. Because like realistically, that means they developed 2 the same time X they were finishing up development on X. But that might be the way Monolith Soft works. Go get some ribs then, god damn it. They would have started working on the Switch early. Nintendo knew the Wii U was dead. No way Monolith started a new Wii U game at that point. Well, that's the point. That's the point I was making anyway. The next topic is not even talking. I'm just looking at questions now. It's alright. I've literally been almost doing this for an hour. I feel like there's no point going into another topic because there wasn't a lot to go on. This is why I primarily humored the whole Wii U conversation was the fact that there wasn't anything else of newsworthy that I could talk about. Because like I said, I'm not an Animal Crossing fan, so there's not a lot I can get into. Well, that and they were also finishing X. You savage, Perry. I'm not gonna agree or disagree to that statement though, Perry. Also, I did watch the Pokemon Twilight series. Shit's been pretty good. Wish they would make it like a legit anime out of that, but I feel like at this point, this is the best we're gonna get is like teases. Although the teases have gotten better over time. Like originally, our teases were like anime clips that we got for the black and white era of the game characters, and then in Generation 6 we got the origins and the what was it? The origins and the generation clips, and now we're getting like these mini episodes for just Sword and Shield. So I'm hoping by the time we hit the Gen like 10, maybe we'll get like a legit episode or so. I don't fucking know. It's slow progress, but the Twilight stuff has been pretty good. I'm just a handheld fanboy that loves the Switch too many. I mean, I know he's trolling me. I just don't give a shit. Also, real quick, fuck it, real quick. Make sure I didn't skip anything. Atlas, real quick, just to answer the Atlas question, because there is one thing about Juice I want to mention. The Atlas conversation about why they're playing, I think that's probably more. It's either a Sega thing or it's an Atlas of Japan thing, where I think like Atlas of America might be interested in it legitimately, but they need to prove it to Atlas of Japan, who may not look at it as a financial worth doing it financially, which is fucking stupid, by the way. But that could be the situation, that they don't view it to be a worthwhile cause. So I think that's what that is. The whole situation with Atlas and giving out if you want a Persona game, you gotta let the developers know that you want a Persona game on Switch. Supposed whitewashing. I don't even know about the whitewashing, Sora-san. Real quick, that's just I want to talk about something because the other argument I heard come up in Juice's stream yesterday was about what was it? Oh, it was about expanding your horizons. Now, I don't know if I was the only. I don't know if I'm the most Nintendo focused console owner in our group, but I know that like I never buy any of the other consoles day one. Like, just to give you context, the Wii era, I didn't get a PS3 until 2010. The Wii U era, I didn't get a fucking PlayStation 4 until 2017. The Switch era is kind of different, so we'll wait and see. But the last two generations, I've gotten other consoles later. But I think Juice mentioned I think the two critiques I think Juice kept getting was the whole play your backlog, which that's a whole different argument. But the one I wanted to pick with is the fucking expanding your horizons. And Juice is like, I expanded my horizons. And then he starts naming a bunch of PlayStation games. But I'm like, but you owned a Nintendo console and you didn't expand your horizons there. Like, what titles did you get on Nintendo that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise? There was only like a few examples I can think of. Not saying you didn't do it at all, but you definitely didn't do it as much as I think you tried to claim like you did. When we're talking about taking a chance on different, I think I've expanded my horizons more than you, and it's been for like dumb shit. like when people and I hate the backlog argument because it always, for some reason, when you talked about it yesterday, it turned into an argument where it was like, well, don't get mad at me because because I beat every game I play or something along those lines. Like, this is why I thought the multi-console ownership was stupid. Who the fuck wants to own 3 fucking consoles and like have pretty much no extra life, have no extra social time? Like I don't know the whole experience here. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, bruh, you did it on PlayStation. I didn't understand. Actually, it's funny. My issue was I didn't understand when you were saying you were expanding your horizons, when from what I remember, you really didn't. Like, I don't remember. You mentioned PlayStation titles, but you never mentioned like any Nintendo titles. That's what confused me. Because you go, I expanded my horizons, and then you literally just mentioned like Devil May Cry, Resident Evil 2, which I wouldn't view that as expanding your horizons because you already seemed like you played 7, so you were already interested in Resident Evil to begin with. That's not expanding your horizons. Like when someone says expanding your horizons in gaming, yeah, that's the point I'm making. You were the one talking about how you expanded your horizons, but you really didn't expand your horizons. That was my only issue with that. Like, maybe not 1-2 Switch, but like Pokemon. Pokemon would have been a good example of expanding your horizons. A franchise you had like no interest in to begin with, but you was like, fuck it, let me give it a chance. Kind of like what you did with Fire Emblem back on the 3DS. Like, that's expanding your horizons. That was like my only like legit critique. I was just kind of like, that's not. Resident Evil 2 remake is not expanding your horizons. Devil May Cry is a fair one. Control was a fair one, but like, You were talking because someone said expanding horizons, but they were talking about like Nintendo systems, and then you just mentioned a bunch of PlayStation games. Yeah, but when people told you, then I'm saying like in the context of the conversation, it was about when they said to expand your horizons, they were talking about like Nintendo games, and then you just named a bunch of PlayStation games. That's the only thing I was saying. It's not that relevant. I'm just bringing it up. Did you open Pokemon Twilight? What are your thoughts on Pokemon whitewashing? Basically, there was an article saying they whitewashed Bea. Let's check. I didn't think they whitewashed her. She looked just the same to me. Well, let me make sure. So we're gonna take her in-game character art. I'm gonna save that as an image. Real quick. And then we're gonna get her from Pokemon Twilight. Let's see. What the reason why they say that is primarily the reason why they're saying she was whitewashed is because in certain scenes she looks lighter than others, but it's very obvious she has like a tan in every fucking thing. It's darker in the shadow shots and it's lighter in the out in the sun shots. But I'll get clips to show. I'll prove what I'm saying. Let's save that one. Then let's save the one in the light, which looks brighter. To me, this is people making outrage for the sake of making outrage. What else? I think those are the main ones I need. The hell was that? That's probably the fucking thing. Let's see. Let's see. So that's her in-game model. Because apparently they made the argument that she's being whitewashed. I'll answer the question in a second, Juice. Give me a second. I just want to get this out of the way. This is her in the episode. And then here's the other one. She looks light in certain shots, but that's primarily due to the fact that you caught her a different thing. She's still tanned. I don't even understand what the fuck the whitewashing argument makes sense in. Actually, that's a fair point, Dante. Not every black skin. Actually, who? There's a Pokemon. I think Marlin from Black and White is like that. Marlin isn't black. Marlin has a tan, if I remember correctly. He's a good example of that argument. If I remember right. Let's see. And the way you can tell is because you can see the tan lines. I need his in-game art, god damn it. Was it him I'm thinking of? Yeah. Marlin isn't black. Marlin is tan. And the way you can tell is because you can see his feet. Like here. Let me make this bigger. I'm going to delete all these pictures in a second. Let's see. See, look. His feet are lighter, and even here. Marlin is not black. Marlin is tan. He just looks black because of his tan, but he's actually not black. But yeah, that's just Kotaku being stupid, so we'll delete all this. Let me see. What was the last thing? Oh yeah, so the expanding your horizons part. Let me scroll back up and see what you said. Why would I buy a trash turn-based game, Pokemon games, when I don't know if I like that genre? Just because Nintendo has put out a bunch of games. Well, that's what you call expanding your horizon, is playing games you wouldn't normally play. That's literally the premise of expanding your horizons. I don't like the third person over the shoulder daddy's fucking like storytelling games. Hence why I never played things like Uncharted or Last of Us, and I had originally no intention of playing God of War. You know what made me buy God of War? It was you, Jews. You're the reason why I bought fucking God of War. I bought it to give it a legit shot. Part of it was also to prove you wrong on the Spider-Man conversation. But like, I bought it literally because of that. I bought it because it was a game I don't normally play, and to give it like a legit fair chance. And like I said, I need to do a review of that game. But realistically, I like the combat in that game. I hate the fucking camera, and I hate I'm not a fan of the stop and go game design for God of War. It's not a bad character, but still. So that was my argument there. That's the reason why I said it though. But like that was the whole point. That like expanding your horizons is playing games you would normally never play. It's not really relevant either, but I figured I'd just bring it up real quick. But with all that being said, it's been an hour and 6 minutes. I need to fucking go to the gym and then watch. I still haven't watched My Hero today or Pokemon, so I need to do those two things and then get the fuck out of here. I imagine Juices Loose tomorrow will be very interesting because there will be a lot of conversations. But like I said, at the end of the day, the Wii U argument really isn't that important. It's more of so people just liking to have that conversation. And like I said, the only reason why I brought it up today was because of there being another lackluster news week. I wouldn't say it's boring, but it's inconsistent. I think it has bad pacing. That's my issue with God of War. God of War is one of those games that I think can be fun, but it just Oh, Red Dragon, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, man. Some days you catch them on time, some days you don't. It's okay, because there's always next time, because there will always be another Manic episode. Woo! Also, thank you, Sora-san, for the donation. If I remember correctly, that was Sora-san who did that earlier. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. The gauge is growing. Progress is being made. Woo! I'm trying to think. Was there anything else? Like I said, join the Discord in the description. I've added a waifu and husbando section, so we will be posting more fan art in there. Studio Parrot has already put some fucking nonsense in there. We're gonna have to throw hands, but that's besides the point. I did watch the Sonic movie. I think I mentioned it last time. I didn't mention it this time. It's fine. I think the Sonic movie was okay. It wasn't anything crazy for me, but it was fine. Dante doesn't need a timeout. Did you delete Dante's comment lightning, or was that Dante? We're not doing that nonsense, all right? Not today, god damn it. But with all that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. Watch the Juices Loose tomorrow, because I imagine that one's going to be pretty reckless. Especially from this video. Usually, like, when one of us says some shit that, like, the other people don't agree with, it turns into a whole mood. And part of me just doesn't give a shit. Part of me just does not. I just don't give a fuck. Don't delete other people's messages, yo. Hey, man, we can have the waifu war fight, bruh. We can throw hands, period, and we will do that. But that's later. But anywho, life's a game, and Jesus Christ, Sora-san. Wait, did you just do that, or did my brain blank out? Wait a minute, though. Fuck. I don't know if the thing was supposed to... Did it change? I want to make sure. Jesus Christ, Sora-san, though. I appreciate it. It did change. I went from 125 to 175. But thank you. I appreciate it. It's crazy. That was the second one. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But that's besides the point. Anyways, thank you. Yeah, don't time out Dante. The fuck? Oh, wait, did he ask for the timeout? That's crazy. Alright, I'm gonna stop. Alright, this has gotten weird. Moving on. Moving on. Thanks for the support. I'll catch you guys later. Lots of gameplay to win. Don't time him out again, Lightning, next time. Peace, guys. Jesus Christ, this got crazy. Stop giving me all this fucking money. I thank you, Soro-san. I really do, bro. I really do.